we go. We're recording, kids. All right. We got it. We got it in the house. And cancel that. All right, kids. We're going to get this show on the road. The kids will be back in here in a second. And we are recording. And, just mostly for the recording. Hey, Steph, good to see you. Tree Topper, love you. Zaragoza, hooty-hoo. And my brother Grant, the logical hippie. So good to see you in the house, brother. I love you. We haven't talked lately. We need to talk. We need to just get together and have some giggles or something. And I hope everything's going well. But so yeah, we're just waiting for the boys to come back in the house. That was all I needed to do, was just reboot, and we are recording. And our brother Bryan Parker is in the house, and Bryan's a professional researcher. This guy has, he should have, instead of the mark of the beast, he should have researcher posted across his forehead, because he's really good at digging stuff up and finding the truth. And he's a definite truth seeker. And right now, kids, we need truth seekers, something fierce, and we need viral truth. And that's something that we're working on, that we're going to show you some serious viral truth this morning. And so, Bryan, good to see you, buddy. I figured that was all it took, was just rebooting. And so why don't you, let's see, I'm going to share a screen so that you can see what I'm sharing here, and direct me what you want people to see. So
today's actually been an awesome day. I woke up early today, went for a walk down along the Caloosahatchee River, which is basically kind of my backyard, and sat under a big banyan tree. Can you scroll to the top of that and expand a little bit? I don't know if you can expand.
Okay, let me see here if I can actually expand this.
Yeah, I'd say
here I should be able to explode the screen a little bit bigger.
Sat under a big banyan tree and just kind of thought about life. I thought about where I was sitting at. This land here, a lot of people think it was maybe stolen from the Seminoles. The Seminoles never signed a peace treaty with the U.S. So technically, they're still combatants. They're still technically kind of enemy combatants. And the U.S. really gained Florida from, it was ceded to them from the Spanish, from Spain. And that was done under the Adams-Onis Treaty. And, it's just so much of what we've been taught isn't quite the way it was. I mean, even the Northwest, people think the land was all taken from the Indians. Well, it was actually ceded to the U.S. by France. There's plenty of things that give evidence of that. So, the French were there first. In fact, I lived for quite a while on an island in northern Michigan, or on northern Michigan. And the place where I lived there was right at the foot of Fort Michilimackinac. And it was a British fort. And the British and the French were fighting back and forth at that time over it, and that was kind of fun to live in a historic place like that and go up and sit at the old tea room at night, climb the hill and scale the wall and sit and drink a 6-pack at the old tea room, which was, at one time kind of their social gathering place at the fort for those soldiers. But, that it's really an interesting land when we really start learning the real history of things. And that's what we need to do today with what's being presented to us, is the real truth has been given to us. It's been put out there. The problem is that people have forgotten how to read. And when I say that, I mean that in two different ways. One, if you research it and look it up, over 50% of the American public is functionally illiterate, over 50%. And those that can read, they can see, but they can't see. They hear, but they don't hear. You know, when you hear things, you can't just hear it with your ears. You got to hear it with your heart, with your mind. You got to think a little bit with what you're hearing. And people aren't doing that today. What we're showing here is a whole list of resources that I put together that I shared with JJ. The first one there is from the New England Journal of Medicine. And this was written by Dr. Fauci. And it was written sometime in February. And it was published, I think it was March 26th. And that's a link for it there. And the reason why we're showing this today and showing this list that I made up is because I'm going to go through them. There's 9 points, nine different sections to it, but we're just going to hit on 8. The 9th one is the video from Dr. Andy Kaufman, and we covered that last time I was on. It basically describes what a virus is and isn't. And I say is with, say, maybe quotation marks around it because it really doesn't exist. Anyway, down to number 2. All right, that was Dr. Weiler. That goes over the paper by Dr. Shi Zhongli, and we covered that as well last time. So we can scroll down to number 3. Bring number 3 up there for me. Okay. And this is something I covered this yesterday with JJ. Oops, where'd it go? Oh, there it went. All right, good. And this goes back to what I was saying about people learning how to read, because people read things, but we haven't been taught grammar anymore. We don't comprehend grammar completely. And, you know, it's sad for me. I see things that some people write, and I've got, even if it's just 2 or 3 sentences, I've got to sit and really try and figure out what they're trying to say, because people can't even cognize their thoughts anymore. And I'm not downing people or anything. I'm just saying this is the education system that people have been brought up with. This is what people know, which is very limited as far as how to communicate. All right. Which means also, if you're going to go and read US code or even read medical journals, you have to realize that these people, many of them also have some training in law. Definitely if you're reading US code, that's definitely written by attorneys. Okay, so you have to comprehend attorney lingo and what they're saying and what they're trying to convey, because they're going to give you the truth, but they're also going to hold it back a little bit. It's yours to uncover. Just like scripture says, it's glory of a king to conceal a matter. It's a glory of man to search out a matter. That's exactly what that refers to. Okay, now this is Title 21. Title 21 in U.S. Code, subsection 878.4040. Okay, this section covers medical equipment. Okay, and specifically the mask. Okay, and that's why at the beginning there it says mask/respirator. Now, we're hearing a lot in the news about the need of respirators. And I think the common people are kind of thinking, oh, that's like a medical device or something to help you breathe. No, respirator is another name for the N95 mask. All right. Now there's the N95 mask that's out there, and then there's the SM, which is listed in some of these links as well. SM, when they say SM, they're talking about surgical mask. That's that mask that people are all wearing out and about today, or they're trying to make homemade masks, and we're going to cover why they are not sufficient. Now, I want to give just a really short little education here on reading code, reading US code, or anything legally written, okay? Because you got to really pay attention to what it's saying. And in this paragraph, it says it's giving you the purpose for the mask / respirator. And it says it's for filtering surgical smoke or plumes, comma, filtering specific amounts of viruses or bacteria, comma, reducing the amount of and or killing viruses, comma, bacteria, comma, or fungi, et cetera, okay? Now, what I want people to pay attention to is you go back to the opening of that, and it says it's for filtering specific amounts of viruses or bacteria, comma. Now, when it says viruses or bacteria, I want you to think of it this way. Consider I'm talking about my mom's husband or spouse or soulmate. Now, when I say husband or spouse or soulmate, am I talking about 3 different people? No, I'm talking about one individual, one man. My earthly father, his name was Glenn Parker. Okay. And so when you're seeing there that it says viruses or bacteria, whatever you want to call it, that's kind of what they're saying. But then as it goes on down and starts listing things again, and it lists viruses, then it puts a comma, and then bacteria, and then a comma. Then they separate it later on in the writing. Why do they do that? They're putting you back into the old mindset prior to them saying viruses or bacteria. They're putting you back into the old mindset of a virus being separate from a bacteria or being separate from a toxin, which if we've gone and studied what was said and shown by multiple doctors, and specifically Dr. Andy Kaufman, he shows that this so-called virus, or I call it the boogeyman, because there's been many boogeymen through history. The Gulf of Tonkin was a boogeyman, 9/11 was a boogeyman, Pearl Harbor was a boogeyman. They've always got to create a boogeyman for people to be afraid of in order to create some sort of political action. And what we're really seeing today is a political action. You go back to what Roosevelt even said about politics and political actions. He said, if anything happens, you can bet it was planned that way.
Yeah.
If anything happens, you can bet it was planned that way. You can scroll down to number 4 there, JJ, if you would.
Okay.
And that's talking about smart filters. Okay. And, you know, I didn't realize it until just now. They use the word smart filters because smart is actually an acronym. A lot of times they use words that are actually acronyms. If you go and look at how they're trying to create smart houses and everything is smart this, smart that. And so many times you notice that that word smart is capitalized. This is going back into comprehending legal things. When you see something in all caps, it's very, very typically an acronym. Go and search what that acronym is, because that acronym for SMART is actually talking about militarizing your appliances. And it's doing it for gathering data. I didn't mention this to you yet, JJ. There's an interesting story about gathering data. And we're finding out today that the number 1 product out there is data. Data is big money. And I was listening to a story a few months ago about a gentleman who, you know, he, of course, buys all the products and stuff for his teenage daughter. And most people do their shopping online today and stuff like that. And all of a sudden, he started getting pop-up ads on his computer. And it was for a baby crib, child seats, coupons for diapers. And he's like, what's going on with this? what happened was his daughter had decided to switch to products that were more neutral. Okay. Uh, Deodorant that was unscented, things like that. Well, those algorithms in the data went to these companies and said, it is very likely that there's somebody pregnant in this household. Because when a woman is pregnant, her olfactory senses kick in stronger and make her way more sensitive to smells and things like that. And so women, either consciously or subconsciously, when they're pregnant, will switch to products that, you know, are more conducive to their senses. Um, Come to find out, a couple months later, you know, the computers knew even before the daughter or dad knew. A couple months later, come to find out the daughter's pregnant. Is that not amazing or what? That's what the data is all about. That's what it's there for. You know, it's there to make money. Well, but if you go into this link for the smart filters, um, it's going to give you more detailed information about how these masks actually filter and the purposes for them. And number 5, right below that, it's the CDC site. That's the Center for Disease Control. Strongly recommend going and reading this. And I'll tell you right now, I'll share things like this to some people. And for instance, there is a judicial site that I go to where attorneys are talking to attorneys, clerk of courts are talking to judges. They're giving presentations to each other, showing each other how things work within the legal system. And I'll share that with people, and they're like, oh, those attorneys are all a bunch of liars. You can't believe what the attorneys are saying. No, they're not talking to you, they're talking to each other. And so you definitely want to go into a site like the CD site and read some of like the white papers, these peer reviewed papers. You have to realize these peer reviewed papers are called that because they all kind of sign off on this information with each other. And they know the truth. They know the facts on how things really work. And so they can't get away with lying to each other. But though they turn around and step in front of the microphone and lie to the American public. How do they get away with that? I'll tell you what's happening. You know, a lot of people say, they talk about the elite, okay? And they say, oh, they're not elite. They're no better than anybody else. You know what? In a way, that's true. But in a bigger way, that's very untrue. Because if you are able to gain power and deceive people and get money willfully handed to you out of their pocket, then yes, you're better than them because you've conquered their mind. And that has always been the battle. It's been the battle for the mind all the way back since the Garden of Eden. Every war, everything has been a battle for the mind. The very first link up there at the top that was from the Journal of Medicine, New England Journal of Medicine, excuse me, is the same thing. That was Dr. Fauci talking about this boogeyman. And what does he say in that? He said that the death expectancy rate was 0.1%. 0.1%. That's minuscule. But though at the same time, the next day after he writes that report, the next day he's going in front of TV, in front of the mic with the Don, the king, and he's saying 3.5%. We can expect 3.5% of people infected to die. Well, I'm sorry, but 3.5% is massively huge compared to 0.1%. I mean, hello. But in regards to the elite, what they're doing is they're sitting back, listening to each other lie to the American public, and they're not paying attention to the guy that's lying. They're paying attention to the American public because they know that that fear is going to make them money. And they're sitting back laughing, watching the lemmings follow each other right off the cliff. And it's sad. It's very sad.
Hey,
All
Brian,
right. So,
real quick,
yeah.
what you just pointed out, it looks like my brother Wet's over there. He has something that he wants to interject about that.
Jump in.
So what do you say, Wets? Do you have something that you just raised your hand like you needed to say something about that? Let's have it. What do you got?
Maybe he just wants permission to go to the bathroom.
No, I'm multitasking here, and I wasn't raising my hand. I was I'm pouring my water in because I didn't want to get up, and unless I got to get up and take a William Shatner, I will hold it. But no, I'm listening to everything you're saying. I'd really like this thread right here, so I can keep some of the God, like I said, I got family, I got people that are really having a hard time with any language that I bring up that goes against the CDC, that goes against Fauci, that goes against the WHO. And it's just the same Kool-Aid drinking line like you're talking about, Brian. I mean, they want you to think a certain way. And so they just continually try to indoctrinate you. And just, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a parody song like by Carly Simon's Anticipation. I want to do a song with my own lyrics, and maybe you guys can help me write this joint, but we'll call it Indoctrination. Indoctrination, it's making me crazy. Is that wrong? Am I wrong?
No, that'd be awesome. I actually had a run-in with her up on that island I used to live on that I was talking about. But anyway.
Oodle lolly. She was just a gorgeous little earthy type folk girl, man. There was something about her.
You know, she's still beautiful today. If you see photos of her, she's got her own website. She's a beautiful woman.
I bet. I bet. No, dude, this is absolute gold right here. Because what you're basically doing, brother, is just exposing the contradictions that we're getting.
Wait till you hear the details.
The devil is always in the details.
Yeah.
Yep.
So anyway, I just saw that from Wets, and you know, it always helps to get a little bit of giggling in as we move on. So roll back into it, brother. Sorry to interrupt you.
Oh, you're all good. All right, we were down in number 4 and number 5, and those things there are going to give you the truth. They're not going to give you the crap that you're hearing on TV. And, you know, I don't watch TV, but I'll listen to like radio news and stuff. And I'm listening to these news anchors, and they are doing nothing but repeating the lies that you're hearing from the top. We know that they're all reading off from the same ticker. They're all repeating the same exact lines right down the row. They've got to fall in line, okay? They've got to follow their corporate overlords if they want to keep their job. And now in sections 4 and 5 there, you're going to find some very interesting information about these masks. Now, a lot of people are feeling, and they're being told, kind of one of the lines going around is, you know, stay safe, you know, wear a mask. Okay. When you go in and read what these doctors are saying and how they created the mask, the purposes of the mask, the reliability rates of the mask, you will be floored. The very first thing to comprehend that the mask that most people are wearing is the SM, which is a surgical mask. And at the end of this presentation, I'll show you an example of one, okay? But the surgical mask was created, go to the purpose of it. The surgical mask was created to help protect other people from the wearer. It was not created to protect the wearer, because the air you're breathing in is not filtered. It's only filtered a very small percentage, because the majority of the air, you have to realize that oxygen, just like water, it's going to follow the path of least resistance. So what you are breathing in is the air or the oxygen coming from the sides of the mask, from the outside of it. However, at the same time, you're also retaining what you expire, what you breathe out, which is carbon dioxide, which means the first thing before when you start breathing in, the first thing you're going to be breathing in again is carbon dioxide, which means you are going to raise the amount of carbon dioxide that you are breathing in by 60 to 80%. Okay? That surgical mask that everybody wears, or people try and make their own, putting a handkerchief over their face or something like that. Those things filter next to nothing. Okay? But they were only designed to protect other people from the one that's wearing it. So if the other one that is wearing it is sick, any moisture that comes out of their mouth, or if they were to cough or anything like that, does not become airborne. That at least a good portion of it, not all, but a good portion of it will get trapped in that surgical mask. So once again, it was not designed to protect the wearer, only to protect other people from the wearer.
No, that's beautiful. I'm glad you clarified that. Can I ask you this then, Brian? So we kind of touched on it earlier before we got rolling, but doesn't that, the mask and breathing in your own CO2 over a period of time, does that have something to do with people in Walmart and people in public passing out and falling into shelves because they're unable to breathe?
Absolutely, absolutely, and we're going to get into that as well. Now, and that's going to be getting into the dangers of wearing a mask, which is number 7. And number 6 also covers a lot of the same information as 4 and 5. And I put like 2 or 3 links basically on the design of the mask and their purposes of them and the testing they've done, because I didn't want people to think, oh, he found one link that agrees with him. You know what I mean? No. One of the things that I found was that there was 2 basic links from like the CDC and white papers, peer-reviewed papers between doctors, that were very extensive in all of this information. And then other sublinks that I found further down the page doing a search on the Great Oracle, they were doing nothing but copy and pasting information from the doctors. There was no new information. It was all the original stuff coming from those studies. Okay. Now, in those studies as well, let's get into the N95 mask. The reason why it's called an N95 mask is because it is roughly 95% effective. Maybe 93, 94, maybe 96, but in general, they're at their best. Keep this in mind, at their best, they were seen as 95% effective. All right. Now, there are protocols to everything. And protocol is even listed in United States Code as well. And these protocols are formed by OSHA. Okay. OSHA is that protection agency for workplaces to keep everybody safe. That was just another expansion of Big Brother, a creation of jobs within government. That's all they created OSHA for, because there's been studies done and no fewer or greater injuries have occurred at workplaces prior to OSHA as compared to after the creation of OSHA. All OSHA did was line people's pockets. But anyway, to digress, OSHA has standards set on these N95 masks. Now, these masks also come in 90, 95, and 100. The N100 mask may only be 99% effective. We know nothing's 100%, right? Hold on, I've got my notification things popping up here. I gotta get rid of it. It's blocking my screen. Nobody send me stuff right now, please. Anyway. Anyway, so these masks also The N stands for something. N means, the letter N, it means that these masks are not effective against oils. And then there is the R and the P, like the R95 or the P95 mask. The R means they're somewhat protective against oils. P means they're very effective, not totally, but very effective. Okay. So anyway, that's a background on why it's called an N95. All right. Now, very, very interesting. In these studies with the N95 mask, like I said, it shows that OSHA has a protocol. What's the protocol? The protocol for the N95 mask is that when a doctor starts using them, there is a protocol for it to be fitted to him so that it seals up around the top of his nose and around the sides of his face and is able to be the most effective. And that protocol that they do for the doctor when he starts using or is assigned a mask, whatever they do, he has to be recertified every 6 months. He has to go back and be retested to make sure he's using this medical equipment correctly. Now, my question is, even if people are buying N95 masks out there, are they following the OSHA protocol? Do they know that they are actually using it correctly? I guarantee not. And here's one of the reasons why. In the 80s and 90s, OSHA did a study on doctors to see how many of them were, still following the guidelines, how effective these masks were. And this is mind-blowing. They found that 80 to 100% of these doctors, their use of the mask was ineffective. I'll say that again. 80 to 90% of, or sorry, not 90, 80 to 100% of these doctors, their use of the mask was ineffective. There's also another study that was done, and they wanted to see how well these masks protected the surgeons and nurses. And they found that there were 0 cases, higher or lower, of infection with people, with doctors and nurses not using a mask as compared to using a mask. They found that the mask had no influence on the amount of infections that occurred. To me, that's very, very interesting, because that goes right back to what I'm saying, what doctors are saying, what Dr. Andy Kaufman is saying, and that is there's no such thing as a virus. It fits into the category of germ theory. I'm sure everybody's heard of germ theory. Well, you have to realize germ theory, it's a theory. It's a hypothesis. It's not settled science. It's something that now we kind of think that there might be viruses and germs, but we have no evidence of it. We can't prove it. That's why it's also never been isolated. I implore, I beg anybody, show me evidence through an electron microscope of a virus, because the only thing they're showing out there today is pictures of exosomes. That's it. The only thing they're showing in the system is bacteria that's giving off toxins, and then you see exosomes that are released from the cell that go and absorb these toxins. That's all we're seeing. Now, further into these masks, we've already seen that, number one, they have not been able to prove whether they prevent any infection rates with or without use by doctors and nurses. We see that 80 to 100% of doctors who've gone through the OSHA training are not using the mask efficiently. So how are we using them efficiently? How can putting a tampon across your face protect you? It's not even designed for that. And even if you were using a mask, odds are you're not following the protocol correctly anyway. So what's happening? It's a mind game. All it is, it's psychological. It's purely psychological. Now, if you go into link number 7, let me see if I can see the screen there. 7, yep. That is a medical report there from Medgrave, and that's a PDF. And it goes into the damages of wearing a respirator. And let me tell you something.
Real quick, Brian, I want to just interject something for everybody real quickly about respirator. They're calling these masks respirators.
That's the medical term, yes.
Yes, and the the word out there on the street right now, I still have yet to completely confirm it, but it wouldn't freaking surprise me in the least. What I understand is that the hospital, if they declare that the person is COVID-19, then they get X amount of dollars. And then if they can declare that patient needs a respirator, then they get even more dollars. And they're calling these respirators. So, these hospitals might be getting all this money just to put one of these masks on somebody. I don't know. It's just something that has occurred to me as I've been learning from you the last couple days about all of this stuff and the technicalities of words.
Yep.
And punctuation.
Absolutely.
And grammar, like you were talking about. I mean, these things have meaning. A comma in a sentence actually has meaning. It's there for a reason, and we don't always understand what it means and that kind of stuff. But it says right here the dangers of wearing a respirator. So anyway, maybe you can expand upon that some more for people so that people understand what's going on in that regard, and then of course, continuing on with what we're talking about here and exposing the dangers of these silly looking masks. I've been saying right from the beginning, the only thing these masks are doing is making you look silly. So.
Yep.
Hey, at least they aren't underwear wrapped around your head. I mean, as funny as they are, I know people that literally believe a shirt sleeve or underwear or a jock strap will work. And if these aren't doing the trick, then, and like I was saying earlier, we need to get Jeff Foxworthy's humor, and you might be a redneck, you might be a po bastard.
Yep. Absolutely.
If you're walking around and you're passing out because you're wearing a respirator, breathing your own CO2 in at the grocery store, you might be a po bastard.
Yeah. I posted a comment actually the other day, and I said that I had to run to the store to go buy more underwear because I was running out of non-essential fabric at home. But and the thing is, people are that scared right now that literally they will wear a bra, they will wear underwear to try and filter the air that they're breathing in. They are psychologically that scared. And, what is a mask? And they're calling these things masks as well. Basically, the street term is, you got to wear a mask. Well, what is a mask? A mask is worn in rituals. A mask is used to hide someone's identity. A mask is used to slip into another persona. And what these people are really showing by wearing these masks is the real persona that they're existing in. And that persona they're existing in is the persona that's presented to them on TV. They soak all of that up. And now when in that section there, section 7 on that link, if you go in, it's maybe 2 to 4 pages. But if you go in and read that, they go in detail as to the amount of oxygen you actually get in, because they did studies with people, and they started out with like a 30-minute study, and then they would also do like a 3-hour study. and I believe they did a longer one as well. But they tested people before putting the mask on. They tested their respiration, heart rate, all of that stuff, uh, oxygen content in their blood. They tested them before putting the mask on, and then they would test them immediately after taking the mask off, whether it was a 30-minute test, a 3-hour test, or whatever. And the results there they show are alarming. The body is seriously, seriously being hurt by wearing a mask. One of the things that they repeated in several different ways, they alluded to it, but what they were saying is they were talking about the stress being put on the body. And any of these doctors that you listen to, I don't care what side of the fence they're on, but when it comes to talking about the boogeyman or talking about toxins or whatever in your system and the reaction of your cells, they will all tell you that one of the first things that triggers your body to go into action is stress. So these little things they're calling that boogeyman out there, which are actually the exosomes, you are having more of those released when you are wearing a mask than when you're not wearing a mask. You are more likely to be tested positive for the boogeyman if you are wearing a mask as compared to not wearing a mask. Why? Because by wearing it, you're putting your respiratory system, you're putting your body, you're putting your mind under stress. And so your body is reacting and your body is working overtime. I think, like I've probably told you before, JJ, it's the same thing with people that have, especially a lot of tattoos on their body. You look at somebody that is, maybe 80 years old that got a tattoo when they're in the Navy, and that tattoo now it's kind of hard to tell what it even is. It's so degraded and everything. And it's not because it all was like the inks were leaking into your skin and stuff like that, and it kind of lost its form. No, your body had all those years, your body has been attacking. It's been going on offense or defense, trying to get rid of this foreign material that is in it. I mean, I remember a year after I had a car accident, I was still pushing glass out of my hand. All right. Your body tries to expel foreign materials and it puts stress on your body. And so at the same time, when your body is breathing in high quantities of carbon dioxide instead of oxygen, your body is going, hey, something's wrong here. Something's wrong. We got to figure out what's wrong. So it's going to go on the defense to try and figure out, okay, where's the problem at? And it's, you're overworking your body. They also looked at the possibility of lung damage and scarring of lungs due to respirators. I mean, this is very, very serious. I would say out of all these articles, if people only read a couple of them, read number 5, the CDC article, and read definitely number 7, the dangers of a mask. And what you're going to find is, I mean, it's just amazing. Now, I wanted to go also into the testing on these masks as well, on these respirators. I guess I should call them respirators because clinically that's what they call them. It's a medical device. And these N95 masks, the testing they were doing to check out the efficiency of them is that they were, and they said this is the wording they used, they were bombarding the mask with particulates to see how many got through. And like I said to you yesterday, JJ, what's easier, pushing something or pulling something?
Definitely pulling.
Yep, definitely pulling.
The horse in front of the cart, baby.
Exactly. So when they are bombarding the mask with these particulates, what are they doing? They're pushing. Okay? That's not the effective way of getting the particulates through the mask. The more effective way of doing it would be to be pulling at the same time. Because when you are inhaling through a mask, we'll just hypothesize that you are wearing it exactly correctly. It's been fitted to you. You followed OSHA protocol. Okay. When you are breathing in, that air in front of your face falls into little tiny highways. And those highways are the paths of least resistance to get through that mask. It's just like, for instance, take a fan in your home and set a candle behind the fan. You're going to see the flame for that candle lean in towards that fan. Why? Because the air behind it is being pulled, and it's following the pathway that it's being led in. And that's the same thing with breathing in through a mask. That oxygen on the other side is falling right in line, going the direction that it's being led in. So I had a really, really big problem when I was looking at that testing and seeing how the testing was performed, because all it was doing was just hitting random spots on the mask and bouncing off, or it was maybe hitting some crevices and being captured, but not near as many particulates. Or finding those spots, whether or not they could fit through them or not is another question. But very few of them were really finding those. Whereas compared to if there was air being pulled in through the mask as someone was inhaling, then those little highways would be formed and those particulates would follow those little highways through the mask. So I had a serious issue with how they performed that testing. And I'm just a layman thinking kind of common sense here a little bit. But we know that common sense isn't really what these people are about. These people are more about what is going to make them money.
So, hey, I gotta ask you something real quick right there along that line, because you're talking about these highways. You know, these highways that where the air can get through. You know, the air portals or whatever,
Right,
as they're referred to, I guess, in the jargon of the scientists. But if the air portal is 10 times the size of the virus, or even 60 or 100 times the size of the virus, depending on what it is you're using as a mask. According to what Jerry talked about, the size of the portal for the N95 mask is 10 times the size of a virus. So is there any information in these that people can read about that that explains that side of the equation?
yeah, there is information. Although I'll tell you, I had a little bit of a headache studying it because it's not my forte. And they were talking about things. Say, for instance, you are comparing different things, and you're comparing a pound of water to 12 ounces of water. And it's like, why don't you just stick with one of those measurements as you're going through? Because they talk about NMs, which is nanometers, and they're talking about microns. And it's like, I had to go and find a medical conversion chart to be able to tell, because when they were talking about viruses, they're talking about nanometers. But then when they're talking about these portholes or whatever in the respirators, they're talking about like microns. And I'm like, come on, guys, please. But the study that they showed, and to me, this really, it is important, but it's not that important. The study that they were doing was between 20 and 100 microns. All right. Well, if you convert the smallest size of a virus, which is 0.6 nanometers, you convert that into microns, that would show that the smallest size they've found of the so-called virus, the boogeyman, is 60 microns. All right. And they tested in a range between 20 and 100. So even the smallest size of these so-called viruses would be trapped by the mask. It would be 90 to 95% efficient on trapping them. But when you're seeing that even doctors being tested who've gone through the OSHA training and all this stuff and been fitted, when 80 to 100% of them are not wearing these masks effectively or correctly, that means that then that the majority of the oxygen they're breathing in isn't even coming through the mask. So to me, that renders those masks totally useless either way. I hope that makes sense to people. And, you know, it was like I was saying to you last night, JJ. I was saying, hey, you know what? I know it's kind of storming out right now and stuff, but you want to go out on the Gulf of Mexico with me on the boat? There's a 20% chance we're going to die. What do you think? You want to go?
Yeah, no.
So when you're looking at numbers in a real life situation like that, and also look at those numbers in this situation, there's no difference, you know. Here,
Amen.
wear this mask. There's still a 20% chance you might get a virus and die from it. Yeah. What else you got for me to wear? You know what I mean? So, to me, it's nonsense. It's hysteria. And if nothing else, it's been a really good beta test to see how well the average Joe out there has been brainwashed. And when I go out to the store or whatever, and I see 90% of the people wearing some sort of something, running around in the streets with their underwear on their head, when I see that, that tells me, you know what, the brainwashing has been extremely effective. And I find that a little disconcerting, but at the same reason, that's why you and I are here today, because we're showing people the real truth, because these people put the real truth out there for us to read. All you have to do is look at it. And then because if you read the real truth on their studies, and then you turn around and flip on your local news or even, you know, mainstream media, you're going to go, what the heck are these guys talking about? Where are they getting this information at? Because it's totally false. It's not what the doctors are saying to each other. It's not what their studies are proving. Well, these guys are all lying to us out here. You know, and if people did that, you know, they'd be throwing their TVs in the garbage tomorrow. You know, even just go and do a study on who some of these talking heads are. Like I was telling you, Sandra Smith from Fox Business. Sandra Smith was a bikini model. She wanted to get on TV. She's a bikini model reading off a teleprompter, and people are sucking in everything like she's some sort of financial guru or something. Come on, you're listening to a bikini model tell you how to invest, and it's not even her thoughts. It's crap she's reading off a teleprompter that she's doing for Fox News, that's owned by Disney Studios. Do you go to Mickey Mouse to get your information or your news? Well, what's the difference between getting your news from Mickey Mouse or getting it from Fox? It's all coming from the same source. It's all coming from Disney Studios.
Right. So
I mean,
there's an interesting side of this mask conundrum that I'd love it if you could kind of expand upon this a little bit. And I was actually trying to find, I thought I had it all screenshotted, and it was the thing from Dr. Kaufman's video where he's talking about the things that produce exosomes.
right.
The second thing on the list was fear.
Yeah. Fear and stress.
How fear causes oxidative stress to the body in abundance. And, you know, you were talking last night about how this whole thing of wearing masks, it's basically two things. They're being told to do so, and they're scared half out of their freaking brain cell.
Yeah.
If they even have a brain cell, they're scared half out of it. They're like, ah!
Hey, JJ, can I share screens?
Absolutely. Yeah,
There's something
I'll stop my share and then you can share.
now that link that we went through there is going to be posted in the show notes here, and so people can get it. If for some reason you hear the video or whatever, you don't seem to be able to pull it off the show notes, contact me and I will send it to you. But there's something that I found several days ago when I was going through Google Images, and I find it very, very fascinating. And I want to share that with you guys here. Just let me go into my files and things and see if I can locate it. I'll go to these guys here. And from a couple days ago, there we go. Oh, I could show you a sexy picture of Sandra Smith if you want to. And she's a bikini model. Take a look at this. Take a look at this here. I screenshotted this and then put my words at the top of it. I got this directly from Google Images. What's that look like? Doesn't that look like the viruses they're showing us?
Yeah.
But though at the same time, if we look at exosomes, they look exactly the same. These are what they were calling the HIV virus from 1984. Do people realize that in 1982, 1983, that, oh my gosh, the same Dr. Fauci, he had a vaccine already prepared for this in 1982, 1983. And then in 83, 84, along comes HIV. Huh. Problem, reaction, solution, you know? And so when I found this, and they had this listed from a medical site as a simulation of an HIV virus, I was like, wow. They are just recycling the same crap to us.
Wow. It's the same, yeah.
That is deep stuff
at the
right
same
there.
time, that's what the exosome looks like as well.
Okay, here, I'll screen share again. Let me screen share something else with you.
Yeah, yeah. Just to help people understand what we're being played like. We're being played like a Charlie Daniels fiddle, and the devil's going down to Georgia, guns a-blazing.
There you go. There's your exosome.
Or is it the HIV or AIDS virus? Or is it the coronavirus? You know?
Another 10 years, it's going to be something brand new. It's, you know, we've had swine flu. I guarantee if you went and looked up the swine flu virus, you're probably going to see an image just like this also. And in another 5 or 10 years, we're going to have the house cat virus, or you know what I mean? We're going to have we're going to have the poodle virus.
The exosome. Look at that. Hoo-hoo! Man, I love exposing the truth.
Hey, did you want that picture of Sandra Smith or no? Here, you know what? People need to see this. They really do.
We're trying to have some fun here.
That's right. We got to have some fun with this stuff.
God's sovereignty, man. I love that.
Well, don't get me going on sovereignty. I know a lot of people that think they're sovereign, and they're nothing but just wards of the government.
Yeah.
Look at this. Oh, look at that hottie. I'm sure she knows how to invest.
Well, she definitely, I'm sure, knows where to invest.
Yeah, yeah. She knows how to break down people's weaknesses. I know that.
Yeah. Yeah, if anybody wants it, go ahead and screenshot it now, because I'm going to take it down. But there's many that can be found online. Just go and do some searches, especially on Pinterest.
So for everybody out there that's watching this, for me, I think this might be one of the most valuable episodes ever, because of just what's going on right now in our world, man. We are being had. We are literally being had. And I want to mention that, you know, what Bryan was talking about is that these people that are behind the scenes, the Billy Boys and the Kissingers of the world, they have one thing that they say amongst themselves. They have something completely different that they spew out to us through their power window and through their, you know, through their whole dissemination. You know, Bryan, we were talking about that last night. Disseminate.
Here you go. Cover your mask.
Yes.
What's it do? It covers your mouth. What do they want people to do? They want to self-isolate, distance, don't get together, don't talk. You know what? I'll tell you something. If I controlled a plantation and I wanted to do something that was going to totally change how my people, how my slaves on the plantation, how they got their water and where their water came from, and totally revolutionize their life, the one main thing I would do is keep them separated from each other. Because the last thing I would want is for them to get together and start talking. Because next step that would happen would be they'd start picking up their pitchforks and they'd come looking for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I mean, you just think logically about the whole picture. And that's exactly what you would do. You would want people to be separated from each other. You wouldn't want people talking to each other. You wouldn't want them, especially getting together in large groups and organizing. Oh my God, they might organize. Yeah, we can't have that.
Well, I get a kick out of, I was watching these protests, and there was supposed to be like, you know, CNN said there were like 200 people at the Capitol building regarding putting people back to work and stuff. When in all actuality, you look at another news source and it's packed. They said there was over 4,500 people there. Oh no.
You know what? Yeah, you know what? But with watching these protests and people, like you said, getting together at the Capitol building and stuff like that, number one, it's kind of good in a way, but it really ticked me off when they were talking, when the news people were going and talking to some of these so-called protesters. What they were upset about was, out of all their mouths, is we want to get back to work. We got to get back to work. We got to open things up. But one woman, you know, she was talking about, my husband, we've never accepted unemployment. We've had to draw unemployment for the first time ever. We're embarrassed by it. Everybody was just talking about work. And it's like, really? You guys, you know, that's like all of the slaves protesting to the slave master. Hey, we want to go pick more cotton. Let us go pick more cotton. Why can't we pick cotton anymore? I mean, come on. You know what they should be protesting about? What they should be protesting about is that their rights and their liberties and their ability to self-rule and the ability of self-determination is being taken away. And
Yep.
every little aspect of their life is being dictated. That's what they need to be protesting. Not that they want to go out and pick more cotton for the slave master. I'm sorry. I'll quit my rant on that.
Well, you know, in all honesty, though, these people are struggling, man. You look at the suicide rate since this stuff has all hit the fan in the last month and a half is higher than the death toll from the coronaviruses. You know, you look at that, I mean, people's lifestyles and their livelihoods are being absolutely disrupted. So even though I might know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who has the coronavirus and died from it, my heart goes out to him just like it does for a cancer person that died, a person that died of diabetes. No one gets special treatment here. It's just a matter of going, look, man, people, what you were talking about, the liberties have changed. And it's been exposed because, you know, when you talk, if I may, when you talk about the people who are really most vulnerable to these are the people who are already stooges of the system. They're on medications. They are on insulin. They're on all these things. They're on oxygen tanks. They're already compromised because of the most cases, the lifestyle choices they make. Now, they're the ones that are the most vulnerable. They're the ones that are screaming the loudest in a lot of respects regarding flu. And it's a shame to me.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and to me, what this really shows is the mindset of people and how well the minds have been manipulated. And, you know, and as far as even work goes, if you look at people, there's so many people that after they quit working, their health and their life drastically goes downhill. Why? Because they placed all of their value on their work. They placed all their value on how much cotton they were picking for the slave master. And when they couldn't pick cotton for the slave master anymore, their self-worth, their self-value went down. We have put the wrong values in place in our life. We have seriously put the wrong values in place in our life. When we've got these divorce rates going up now because families are spending more time together, this should actually be strengthening them and making the family stronger. It shouldn't be creating a higher divorce rates. Why is it doing that? It's doing that because people's values have been put in the wrong place. Their values haven't been about family. Their values haven't been about who they really are. It's been put in their service to the slave master. That's where their value has been. Short video out there that was based on a book written a number of years ago. And this book gets passed around the community of big business owners and people that hold different offices and corporations and things like that. And it's a very simple, and it was a children's book. And it's called Who Moved My Cheese? And the problem is today, when you read or even watch the movie of it, Who Moved My Cheese, is that we've made the wrong cheese. We're looking at the wrong cheese, you know? What's been presented to us as cheese shouldn't be our cheese. That's not where our values should be at. And so unfortunately, since somebody else dictates what the cheese is, when they move the cheese, it disrupts our life. We can't go and find what we are putting our values into anymore. It's been moved. I really highly recommend people check that out. Well, we've got to make sure that we're putting our values and our minds in the right place and not letting somebody else or some other entity dictate what goes on in our head or what goes on our face, period.
Yeah. Amen. You know, we're getting to the point where we should go ahead and try to shut this thing down. But I think we've gone through a lot of really valuable information, and I want to let everybody know that all of those articles that Bryan shared with us that we talked about during this hour that we've been rolling here, I'm going to make sure to put all of those in the comments of the show, and then they're also going to go in the description when this thing gets uploaded to the YouTube channel. They're all going to be in there so that you guys can all go read them for yourselves. And I really hope that you'll go read these things, because in my opinion, the worst part of this thing is the fear. Because the fear has a double effect on people. Not only is the fear causing them to want to like lock down on other people, the fear is making them report their neighbors to the government. The fear is making people do so many crazy things to others. We're not even really considering the aspect of what that fear is doing here. Because that fear is actually more detrimental to the individual who is fearful than any of this outside stuff that's going on. I think it's pretty obvious from what we've shown here, that this virus is just like every single day, you guys. This is the biggest fraud in the history of freaking mankind. There's never been anything like this. That, like, literally, we've shut down 6 billion people all at once. Over
John, would it be safe to say that as contagious as this coronavirus allegedly is, that the fear contagion is multifold and exponentially worse?
Oh, dude. And the other thing is, come to think about this, Brian, I would like to see if we can just kind of brush a little bit off of that article about the dangers of wearing these masks. Last night when you and I were talking about all this and planning for this show today, we were talking about the people that are like dropping in the Walmart stores because these masks, even for the surgeons and such that wear them, that there's supposedly, which it's pretty well shown right there in the one article, that it doesn't matter whether they're wearing a mask or not, they still get whatever they get, whatever, because they're just simply not that effective. But the number one, the fear factor of everybody running around wearing these masks, and then also what's actually happening to people, because this is what I'm trying to really get out there, is that you are not doing yourself or anybody else any good by wearing these masks. You're going to kill yourself is what you're going to do. You're causing more harm to your body than the good that you might possibly be stopping. Is there anything before we head out of here today that we can expand on that aspect of it in the, without everybody, having to go read that article, the dangers of all day long? What can you expand on with that? Because I know you've read through that whole article. I haven't had the time to do it yet. And I need to get through that and read it. But what's a synopsis of the dangers of these masks?
I already mentioned possible lung damage. I mentioned stress that it causes on the body. But, you are actually endangering also your mind, which has already been indoctrinated and brainwashed by the likes of Sandra Smith on Fox News. Now you are also causing anxiety is listed. And another biggie they put on there, depression. Depression is listed. And so you are taking people that are already brainwashed, they're already depressed because they can't pick cotton for advice on their face, that is going to cause depression on top of it. So what you're doing, you are just stacking problem on top of problem on top of problem, instead of creating anything that has even been proven to be a solution. All you're doing is creating danger, period. And, like you're talking about people passing out and stuff, if you are not getting oxygen, that's exactly what your body does. You're not thinking clearly. Your body can't act the way it's supposed to act. It's going to cause you to feel run down. You're going to feel worn out because your body's not being rejuvenated. And it's just like what you were saying last night about, your honey or whoever at work, and a gentleman wearing a mask, and he was going to buy just several products that would cost, $5 or $6. And he's trying to hand over $40. He's trying to hand over $20 bills instead of the ones that are in his wallet. Why? He couldn't even think clearly. He wasn't even able to calculate the math in his head. This is totally screwing with people's
Oxidative
minds.
stress. Oxidative stress just ruling the roost. At least with Kangen water, I know that there ain't nothing out on the planet that even addresses that physiological issue as Kangen does. So I'm thankful as heck that I got that. You know, I'm not trying to stress, but at the end of the day, I'm pounding this stuff right here.
Oxidative stress is the most dangerous thing that's out there. And even with like multivitamins that are sold and vitamin supplements and stuff, you're going to see one of the big things they always push is this helps protect you against oxidative stress. That's one of the number one things that is damaging to your body. And that is one of the number one things that is created in your body when you wear a mask is oxidative stress.
Yeah. Yeah, brother. And, you know,
Good show.
that's really the point of all this, is to try to help people understand how this is all just a big giant scam that we need to be aware of. And I love the pictures of the HIV virus and the exosome. And you know, if you everybody should by now be familiar with the what the so-called COVID-19 virus looks like. And you know, clear back in 2012, they laid all this stuff out for us at the opening of the London Olympics. I definitely encourage people to go check that out. And you know, we need to expose this stuff. And right now, it's more important than it has ever been that we do expose this stuff, that we get the truth out there, that we help people understand that they're not helping themselves by being scared, by being fearful, by wearing masks. And, you know, last night, Brian, when you were talking about how the fear factor of these masks, when people are out there and they see all these people wearing masks, it scares them and they think they need to go get a mask. I mean, hell, you know, I'll tell you what, the people who sell masks, they're loving it right now, baby. They're making big time buku bucks because everybody wants to go buy masks. And they don't even realize, as is usual, they're just being spoon fed and they're worried about being able to cotton for the slave master. And, you know, one thing I want to expand on for everybody is the protesting. We don't want to be protesting, kids. We want to be rejecting. Because protesting, this is something I learned last night in our awesome conversation we had last night that led to this show happening today, is that when you protest, what you're doing is you're saying, I'm okay with it, but I'm not happy about it. I'm willing to put up with it, but I'm not happy about it. And so I'm protesting. And that is what protesting is all about, is I'm saying, hey, I don't like what you're doing, but and that's can you expand on that a little bit, Brian, for the audience? Because I'm sure there's people going, what are you talking about? What you talking about, Willis? And so bust some of that out.
Yeah, but protesting is really a legal term. It really is a real thing in the legal world. That's why any attorney will tell you, sure, you've got the right to protest. Of course you do. The reason why is because by protesting, number one, you're showing consent by participating in a legal activity. I'll say that again. You are showing consent by participating in a legal activity. It's just like I say, when you vote, you are showing consent to a system that's slaughtering millions of people around the world and hundreds of thousands of children a day. You are showing consent to that system by your participation. And so when you're protesting, that's what you're doing. You are showing consent and you're saying, hey, I don't like wearing a mask when I pick this cotton, but I'll still do it. You know what I mean? By utilizing one of their legal tools, you are giving them your consent. The only thing you're really doing through protesting is you're saying, you know, I agree, but it's under duress. I'll still sign the form, but I'm going to write under duress under it. That doesn't mean that contract is void because you wrote under duress. That just means you're not happy with the contract. Well, either way, guess what? You still signed it. And that's what people need to realize. Instead of protesting, like Robert Menard says, you need to be rejecting. Don't go out and protest. Don't have a march, a protest march. Have a rejection march, and write letters to, you know, these people and say, no, I reject the position that you are putting me in, and I will not participate, period. You know, I remember one time I was sending a certified letter to Secretary of State at the federal level, which would be Department of State, and I was getting the green card receipt thing, and so I had verification that somebody had signed for it and that they had received it. And I was at the post office, and the clerk, the woman behind the counter, she just kind of smiled and she says, you know, you know, and I kind of laughed to myself because she didn't even know what was inside that package. But that's what we should be doing. You want to be rejecting, not protesting. Protesting shows consent. I've got a friend of mine. She used to be the head secretary for the lieutenant governor of Florida a few years ago. And I was chit-chatting with her one day because I live way down in southern Florida, and those offices for the Capitol are way up in Tallahassee. And I said to her, I says, oh, by the way, I said, I was up by your office the other day. And she said, really? She goes, what were you doing? Were you there protesting? And I just laughed, and I told her, I said, no, of course not. I said, protesting's for children. I said, to me, the way they look at protesting is they probably see it the same way as you see your 3 or 4-year-old, you know, kicking its feet and pounding its hands on the floor, throwing a temper tantrum. That's probably the way they see it. And she just smiled at me and she said, you know what? That's exactly how we see it. So we need to think about that. We need to think about what we do.
Yeah. No, you're right on there, man. Hey, listen, I sent you a friend request, if that's okay. And I think for, you know, JJ, and what we're trying to do is get the word out, trying to get people woke up to the realities versus the smoke and mirrors we're being fed. I would love and be absolutely humbled to have the powerful comparisons of your exosomes picture, your HIV picture, and your coronavirus picture, just so I can show people that follow me the discrepancies or the similarities, I should say, in all of these things. And just to help, again, help the cause, help people realize how we're being played like a Stevie Wonder piano.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. And not just for you, but this is for everybody out there, because anybody can do this. Go to your favorite search me engine, go to the Great Oracle, and type in exosomes. Okay? It's spelled the way it sounds. Exosomes with an S. And then go to images and look at the pictures. All right? Then log out and go to coronavirus. And then click on images. Do the same thing with the HIV virus. And I haven't done it, but I can guarantee, go to the swine flu virus, do the same thing, and look at images and look at the pictures. They are showing you the same pictures over and over and over again. So.
Wow. Well, right on,
and
man. You've got a powerful episode. You know, you've got a lot of truth you speak. You got a lot of conviction about it. And again, I hate the fact that, you know, us having this conversation, to the people that want to politicize it, the only time I ever get any grief from anybody regarding anything I post about this, it's from the liberals. and they accuse me of being I could give a shit twice about it's Republican or Democrat. That has nothing to do with this conversation. Yet, those that want to challenge me come with the same rhetorical Kool-Aid drinking jargon that you just see today in the whole bullish nature of the liberal agenda. If they don't agree with you, they just bully you with their nonsense and bark louder. And it's like, I could care less about what political affiliation this stuff has anything to do with politics.
You know what? The best thing to do, because what they're all presenting with you with, and what they're using as ammunition, are the words from Dr. Fauci, or Dr. Fauci, I should say. So the best thing to do is go to the white papers that Dr. Fauci has written and show them in his own words what he's saying behind the scenes, because they're listening to what he's saying at the microphone. They're not reading what he's writing behind the scenes.
Absolutely contradictory.
Yep, just show it to him. Say, listen, you're listening to a guy that's lying. I can prove it. Here's what he wrote.
And for everybody, here it is. Here it is, and this is all in the recording, which is going to go up onto YouTube later on today. And then this right here, after this is over with, I'm going to go into the Facebook Kong Family Show comments area, and I'm going to put all of these in there. Here's number 1, New England Journal of Medicine. I'm going to just go ahead and copy and paste all of this stuff right into the comments for all of you guys to go and do your due diligence. If you want to learn what's going on, you need to do your due diligence. Instead of watching the power window, maybe you might want to go check this stuff out. And that's one thing that's really super cool about what Bryan has shared with us today, is that he's not here just like putting out his opinion about things. Obviously, some of what he's talking about is his opinion, and me and Sean, we're talking about our opinions a little bit, but instead of just rolling with the opinion of things, it's like, here's the documentation of how I formed my opinion. And here's the information for you. You check it out. You go do your due diligence like Bryan has done his.
You're expected to as an adult, a discerning adult. It's like Bryan said, half the people they see, but they can't. It's like hearing but not listening. Seeing but not really getting the picture. Everyone just kind of chooses to believe what they want to believe, whether there's enough evidence to substantiate it or not. And that's what's idiocratized this country. I mean, that's the biggest reflection of the idiocracy that's absolutely prevalent today amongst the sheep, drinking this Jonestown Kool-Aid.
Yeah, amen, brother. So I think this has been a really awesome episode of the show today. Tomorrow we got a double header. We got Jen LaFave coming on at 8:45, and then we got Wade Lightheart coming on at 11:30. It's going to be exciting. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be, we're just trying like crazy to bring value to the world every single morning and every day of the week, if possible, and get people to start thinking. Like you said, Bryan, it's a battle for the mind of men and women. Whatever, yes, all of our minds are important. We really need to use our minds. We need to think. We need to discern, and we need to be digging for the truth in every single aspect of what we do every day. And that's why, the viral truth, hashtag viral truth, we need truth to go viral. And we also need truth about this virus. And, so the things that we're doing right now, it's such a blessing. And I want to I think it's unless you guys have something else you want to add to this, I think it's time to say a prayer and get on with our process of, and our mission of changing the world. So you guys have anything you want to add before I give our closing prayer?
No,
I was
man.
just gonna add, for everybody, if they're going and looking for this list, if they can't find it or whatever, I will go and post this to open Facebook, and I don't know if Twitter will let me put it on my Twitter account or not, but I'll post it with the hashtag viral truth. So if you just go and do a search on Facebook and just put in hashtag viral truth, it will come up for you.
There you go, baby. It doesn't get any simpler than that. Viral truth. We need truth to go viral, baby. Woo-doo-woo. That's what I'm talking about. So, what a great show today, Bryan. Thank you. Our Father in heaven, I want to thank you. I want to thank you to start with for the incredible blessing of bringing my brother Bryan Parker into my life. We need more professional researchers out there. I believe that there's no such thing as coincidence. I believe that we are being put into the positions, that you are leading us to the positions where we need to be with the people we need to be with, so that we can share truth, so that we can accomplish our mission of changing the world. And I beg, Lord, that we can have more strength, that we can reach people's ears and reach people's brain cells, so that they can understand what we're doing here, so that they can spread the word, so that they can understand the difference between protest and rejection, that they can understand where they're being led and understand whether or not they want to be led there, that they can disseminate and discern truth. We understand that there isn't my truth or his truth or her truth. There's just the truth. And we beg that we will be able to, we strive and work and pray that we will be able to get people to recognize truth. We thank you for the ability to be able to find the truth, to search for it, to recognize it. And we ask that you will help other people do the same to the best of their abilities. And most of all, Lord, I really want to ask that you will help people get past their fear. Because we know that fear is the ultimate problem. It leads to all the other problems. Please help people get rid of their fear and replace it with courage. I ask all these things in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ, my Savior. Amen.
Let it be so.
So kids, it's been a blast. What a great show today. I'm so excited about the way this show went and the way that, all the tremendous information and not only the information that got given on the show today, but the links, all this stuff that Bryan has put out here for us. Bryan, thank you so much, brother. I love you. And I'm so blessed that God put us together. And
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Good to meet you as well. And, you know, one of the things that drives me up the wall is you're watching all these YouTubers and stuff, and you're hearing their opinion, and you're hearing their claims. Well, you know what? Today, I made claims also, but I did something very different. I gave you
Back,
the link to
yeah, you back.
it.
yeah, that's what sets you apart, brother. That's what sets us apart. That's what literally sets the entire Kong family apart, is that we're not just making claims. We've got the documentation to back it up, and we're there, we're here, we're giving it to people every single day. We're doing everything in our power because we are the Kong family, and we have this goal and this mission to change the world. And hey, Sean, how is it that we're doing that, by the way?
One absolutely fresh glass of hydrogen rich, oxygen saturated, supremely hydrating 9.5 Kangen water at a time. Thank you kindly for asking, my friend.
Amen, brother. You know, I mean, one lightning bolt in a box, one incredibly informative show, one amazing guest, one awesome family at a time. We are changing the world. We're watching it happen. There's a really crazy time going on right now, but we are doing our part to affect that change back towards the area where it needs to go, because change is inevitable. It's just, what's the change going to be?
And don't forget your hugs, people.
That's right. Never, never.
Yeah. Do not forget your hugs, especially right now, kids, where you're not allowed to give hugs. You got to give yourself a hug. And do not forget your hooty
Giddy up, boys.
hoo.
Check you tomorrow.
Love
Good
you
day
guys
tomorrow.
so much.
Be
Have
a
a
good
great
one.
day.
Rock and roll.
All right, kids. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I did. That was amazing stuff right there. I am so thankful that God brought Bryan Parker into my life. Marilyn, Yvette, Rodgar, V.S. Sushil. Interesting that they'll let you call yourself V.S., but they won't let me call myself J.J. Classic. That's interesting. Danny Garcia, good seeing you, buddy. My brother Wets. Hey, the samurai. He's in the house today. Bless his heart. Stephanie and my brother, the tree topper. I love you guys. I love you guys all. Please share this out. Please get this information out there. As soon as this thing is recorded and I can get it uploaded to YouTube, I'm going to get it up there. And I really hope you guys will share this. And, you know, yeah, I know it's an hour and a half long, but hopefully people can watch it 10 or 15 minutes at a time, or mostly just listen to it, because there isn't really a lot except for the pictures of the viruses. You know, you guys, the viruses, the things Bryan was showing us about these viruses. We are being had, kids. Let's stop it. Let's stop it. We don't need to be had anymore. We need to get this information out there far and wide. I think representatives of government need to see this information. You need to send them a copy of this show. They probably won't watch it, but you know, if they can get all the links that Bryan sent, those are all going to be in the description. And I'm going to encourage people in the description to go read the articles, go look at the stuff, go look at what Dr. Fauci has said when he's talking to his buddies. When he's talking to his buddies, he says one thing, and when he's talking to we sheeple, he says a completely different thing. So I love you, kids. Make it a great day. Get out there, change the world, starting with your own. And don't forget your hugs and your hoodie. All right. See you guys tomorrow. We got a double header. Bye for now.